Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's 5:30 on Monday, December the 13th, 2021, in the year of our Lord. We will call our Board of Public Works and Safety for the City of Scottsburg, Indiana, to order. And the first thing we will do is take roll call by our Clerk Treasurer, Jan Hardy.
Mayor Amy.
Here.
Karen Gracious. Here. Tom Lewis.
Here. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of November the 29th. And folks, if you see, you're seeing the same thing we're seeing up here. So,
And there's copies back there too of the agenda.
we have future attractions up there too. We actually do have some things coming up though. So, we'll call for approval of the minutes of November 29th meeting. Are there any corrections or typos that you've seen, or additions that you felt need to be added?
I didn't make a motion we approve the minutes as presented.
Tom Lewis makes a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second? Karen Gracious seconds. Gracious comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, thank you. Is there old business for this evening? Chief, do you have anything? We'll go to new business.
They have me on the agenda, sir.
Oh, they do?
I'll go right now if you want me to, but I'll wait until
Okay.
whatever you want me to do.
Any old business? Jess, nothing? Okay, new business. Do we have anything from the department heads that you're aware of, Jess?
Nothing that's not on the agenda.
Okay, all right. Then let's go down to the approval of the 2022 contracts. We have a Blue River contract. Jen, do you want to explain that one? That's the transportation, right?
Yes, it's transportation. It is the same service that was approved last year by this board. And the council does have that money budgeted every year for this service for the elderly.
Remind me again how it works. Can they just go anywhere, call them and get them to take them anywhere, or is there a certain route? Or
Mari, I know they pick up at certain places at certain times.
They do, and as well as the elderly, they do assist the handicapped as well.
Yes, they can call from St. James. I've had a client from there that would call to say, pick me up on Thursday for a doctor's appointment. So I think they have to call 48 hours in advance. Yeah, so yes.
There's Scott Valley. Is there a fee? Is there $2 fee or $5 fee maybe?
I think it's $1 each way.
It's $1
Yeah,
each
dollar
way.
each
Yes.
way. Now, if they have to travel out of the county, then they have to count the mileage, but if it's in county, they don't count
Yeah.
mileage.
is that used a lot? I mean, is it well?
Daily.
Yeah.
I don't think they do it on Saturday or Sunday, but I think it's Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
A lot of clients, I mean, a lot of people use it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's widely used, and this is in, is it, Marty, is it about 5 counties are doing this in?
As far as I know, I really
I
haven't
was
kept up with that.
And I may be wrong, but I was thinking we had them here,
Yeah.
and they had their head guy here, and I was thinking it was 3, 4, 5 counties. Yes, does that sound right?
I'm looking it up, but I think so, yes.
Something like that.
Okay.
So let's just go through all of these contracts, and then we'll just vote on them as a whole.
Okay.
So that's under approval of the 2022 contracts. The next one is the Westwood Golf Course contract for $30,000. Jan, you want to explain anything on that?
Again, that was the same thing that was approved by this board last year, and council has the money budgeted for all of these. We feel like it's very vital
And that's
and
for
beneficial. It is a,
special events.
yes, and it's like a special, it is looked at as a private entity providing a municipal service. Yes, and they do provide a lot of events that give back to the community.
And you'll see a lot of things, FOPs out there,
Fire department.
fire departments out
They
there.
have a lot of scrambles.
I mean, do they get to, like the FOP, use it for free, or do they have a fee, or how's that work?
It's a discounted fee.
Discounted.
I think, yes, it's a discounted fee to the golfers, and then they do collect the proceeds from all,
Okay.
so, yeah. And a portion of what the players pay.
The next one is the Scott County Partnership, and also, what's SPNLL?
Okay, so this contract overall is for $65,500, but it breaks down that the Scott County Partnership
Partnership, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's-
gets
Which provides some learning,
I
Yeah.
noticed in the contract that add the three numbers together, unless I added wrong, it should be 65,550.
Okay, and that may be a typo on our end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, it would be, because you got $150 odd.
there were three of them.
350s.
At 50s, yeah.
But the CC is the Clearinghouse, Community Clearinghouse, and the LL is the Lifelong Learning Center.
Have you ever been to the clearinghouse? You ever been to the clearinghouse?
I helped build it.
Okay, so, but have you helped work it there?
No.
I mean, I'm telling you what, it's really neat. I was there this year and they pack bags for the homeless. They have places, I mean, where they put their frozen food, you've got frozen food, you've got bread, they've got staples, they've got detergents. It's really a nice thing for our folks in this county. So,
And they allow people to shower, like, I think they do
Yes,
have a shower.
yes. And so,
Mhm, I believe so.
if you're ever trying to figure out something you want to do that day, go down and see if you can help. You know?
No,
Folks, I mean, if you're retired and you want something to do, go down and see if you can help at the clearinghouse.
That's,
That's,
they'll take your ill.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, we haul things around, we pack bags. I mean, they have a whole bags for the homeless folks coming in. They go in. So it's a worthwhile thing, very, very much so. What's the LL?
Lifelong Learning Center.
Okay. The Lifelong Learning Center.
Is that used a lot?
Yes. We need Jeannie here to answer that.
Yeah.
Now, what all programs, I've always felt like the Learning Center was some of the programs that they put on there, and then the partnership also gets a lot of grants through them, but like for a lot of these programs that help the non-smoking and some of the drug-free and different programs, a lot of that, I think, the partnership is able to run those grants through them. A lot of it goes through for the school kids.
That building out there is used daily. And it really is. And Jeannie Bridgewater does an amazing job out there, and she's an amazing lady. And she had us all in there, and she went over a lot of these programs and things like this. So they've got a lot of things there, so.
And she brought that, maybe sometime we should get her to come to the Board of Works to explain, because she brought her, that would be, because she brought her programs to council.
She came to council.
Yes, but you all, since you're privy contracts, that would be a nice learning experience.
I'll make a note of that.
Thank you, Jess.
I assume these amounts are not their total budget. That's just a portion of the budget, correct?
Correct, yes. They do get a lot of grant money, and depend on a lot of their programs are through grants.
This is part of it. We're not paying all of it, but this is part of it that makes them be able to survive. And, so,
I'll make a motion to approve with all three contracts.
with the idea that it looks like it may be a typo, should be 65,550.
Well, the contract says it right, I think.
Yes, the contract says it.
It's just our agenda says it.
Tom Lewis makes the motion to accept the contracts as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Karen Brish is seconds. Are there any other questions you have about any of these? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous, thank you very much. The next thing we have is property casualty renewal proposal by the Foundation Insurance.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
May we come on up and
Sure,
pass this
by
around
all
for you?
means, by all means. Yep.
Thank you.
You have an extra one for Mike? Good. Okay, so I'll give that to Rita. Just take one.
Did you guys get these? You got this one? No?
Now, the insurance.
Don't want to read insurance paper.
That have been handled out of the clerk treasurer's office, so let me ask Jan, is this for most of all of our insurance?
It is our property and casualty.
Okay.
And-
So that's like
Yes.
not your health, anything not health insurance?
Non-health.
Non-health.
Right. And so this, oh, I'm sorry.
Because I knew AIM had that, so
Yeah.
did you have everything else?
Yes. And so this is kind of a long presentation, but I only get to come to the Board of Works once a year. But we, throughout the year, get to kind of get to work with folks on the staff and go through everything. But I kind of wanted to let was going on and kind of anticipate questions that you might have because, you know, it's kind of confusing to come and just present a number and say, hey, can you just approve it? And you don't know where it's coming from or the context. So I wanted to explain the context, big picture, like where we are in the world, where we are in the United States, and then kind of like where we are in Scottsburg. So this first page 3 here outlines the really tough news that is we are in a hard market globally. So, but I say this now because we've got better news for us coming up. But just to kind of show you what's going on, globally the property and casualty rates are up 15%. And in the U.S. we're beating that by about 12%. So that is, that's a tough reality right now. So that's for an account that's clean. On an accounts that actually have losses, we're seeing higher increases. So that's kind of like the big picture of where we are. And
Is that
what
15% from last year or from what year?
Yes, year over year, 15% from last year. And if you look at this, yeah, so like that was 15% in quarter 2 of 2021. So quarter 2 of 20, prices were already 19% above where they were the year before. And if you look at Q2 of 19, they were up 6%. So I mean, when you compound those increases, it gets kind of crazy. We had actually a really good renewal last year. So we did not come anywhere close to this 19%, which is good, but also just wanted to like keep in mind like the world that we're living in and what we're dealing with when we come back to the negotiation part. Factors contributing to this are the disaster costs for this year are approaching $300 billion for the industry, with insurance companies expected to pick up about $100 billion of that, so a third of it. That makes the 4th time in 5 years that the insurance industry is exceeding $100 billion in losses. And AIG, that's one of the larger carriers in the world, they said they've never seen consistent catastrophic losses at this level before. So I say all this not to scare you, but just to put reality check here. The hurricanes, so the next page, page 6, 2020 was the most active hurricane season on record. And what we hear a lot in Indiana is, yeah, but we're not coastal, so how does that impact? Well, the inland, the hurricane weather still impacts us. So on that page 7 kind of shows a diagram of where there were billion-dollar losses or more throughout the year of 2020. It doesn't have all the 2021 stuff yet, but we saw what just happened in Kentucky. There was $15 billion in losses from a winter storm in Texas in February of 2021. And you know what we get from hurricanes is wind damage, hail, that kind of thing. So it really does impact us. The next page shows several, so this is page 8, shows several non-weather factors that are going on right now. One big thing on property rates is the increased cost of construction materials. So, like if a building burns down today, it's going to cost about 50% more for the lumber to rebuild that building than it did this time last year, which is crazy inflation. But the insurance companies factor that into the rates that they charge. COVID continues to be challenging. Global supply chain interruptions also affect things because, like, if there is a fire, if there is a flood, then yes, you want to rebuild, but how long will it take you to get the parts to rebuild? So that's slowing things down and increasing the business interruption losses. So all of this kind of blends together. From the liability standpoint, what they're calling nuclear verdicts, so those are verdicts over $10 million, they're becoming very common. And the social movements, are putting a lot of pressure on municipalities, so police are being looked after more frequently than ever for, misuse of power or excessive force or things like that. So just to kind of put that in perspective in terms of what the insurance companies are seeing when they're filing their rates. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway reported this third quarter of 2021. I mean, I chose them because we all know Warren Buffett, right? He knows what he's doing. They reported a $247 million loss. This is on page 8. $247 million loss this quarter, third quarter of 2021. And that is, you compare that with a profit of $99 million last year this time. So a huge difference there. COVID, what we're seeing the stress especially be is on employment practices liability. So, you know, people talking about working conditions, whether you practice protocols, contribute to employees contracting or dying from COVID, disability discrimination, employee leave concerns, things like that you can read on page 9. But a lot of that's impacting liability for employment practices and increasing claims. I mean, this is a lot here, but I just want you to understand that when we're talking about the world that we're living in, it's there are so many contributing factors to the insurance company losses. So you can see the social movements with harassment and racial justice claims, age discrimination, and stuff for gender equality on page 11. So basically then, page 12 says, when will the hard market end? Because what we're used to seeing is kind of wild swings, where you have a low market, and then high market and low market. And what we're seeing is less and less high-low markets, fewer and fewer high market swings, because the analytics are better than ever. So databases are now showing insurance companies are able to get on, look up a building and see what the sprinkler status is, when it was built, is it made of wood, is it made of brick. They have all this stuff at their fingertips, which they had not had before. Also, in the databases, they're seeing prior claims history as well as storms. So they're able to see better what they can project the actual losses to be. So what we're seeing in the marketplace is more of a stabilization, where the insurance companies are they're raising rates to what they would consider adequate, and then you shouldn't see what they're saying in the future. You shouldn't see these highs and lows, because the markets will be more actuarially sound because they have better data. So number 14, page 14, what does that mean for the public entity market in particular? Because every industry has different challenges. The public entity market is really one of the most challenging industries. You know, Amwins reported, I cited everything on the back where these information came from, but you know, according to the market research, the public entity industry was one of the hardest hit markets and continues to experience a net loss, the insurance companies do. And what we're seeing in Indiana is a 10 to 15% increase on loss-free accounts. That tracks with the global increases. But the problem is we're not seeing municipal budgets go up, as you guys know that. So you're seeing the losses go up, but you're not seeing your budgets go up accordingly. So we have to find a way to get you guys to not go along with this market condition. So that's where we're headed. Public entity claim trends, you know, in addition to whether these, page 816 outlines some issues that specifically are public entity increases in losses over the past couple of years. Cyber insurance cyber attacks are huge. We already talked about the other things with law enforcement and employment practices, but we're also seeing increased lawsuits from personal injuries on city property. But here's why we're all here. What's this mean for Scottsburg? So just to say, you know, like what the market is showing is 10 to 15% increases on loss-free accounts. Page 18 and 19 just shows that we're not loss-free. The good news is we're not in a position like we were a few years ago where the losses are always exceeding what's been paid in. So that's great. So the loss history has improved, and that's thanks to the great work of the folks here to work on workers' compensation claims, making sure things are safe, changing policies and procedures to help reduce loss. So all that is contributing to a better situation for you guys. Nonetheless, we still have some claims, and I just wanted to talk about two this year because they're significant. So one has some sensitive personnel situations, so I don't want to kind of go into details, but just there was a cyber situation where we were concerned that there could be a claim due to a personnel issue. That's all I'm really going to say that in a public meeting. But we quickly got involved, got everything, got the carrier involved, and came in and prevented a problem. So that was really good and exactly the way that we should be working with the insurance company. So great job there on that. We also had a problem with a claim with the mower. And that was a tough pill to swallow for all of us. So we had this issue where there was a claim and the mower was not on the list of assets despite everybody's best efforts to go through and look at this. The insurance carrier looked to the policy to try to find coverage and couldn't get it under personal property. So what they did was they found some coverage for grounds and maintenance equipment not within the building, because we were off the property, and paid out what they could under that policy, which was $5,000, which is not enough to cover the claim. So, we expressed sincere frustration and disappointment that they couldn't make an accommodation. And they said, hey, we have to follow the policy, so even if they didn't want to pay something, but the policy said they have to. So in this case, they're we can't just make up the language, but where they do have discretion or the ability to change is not the policy language itself, but underwriting. So they said, we appreciate Scottsburg. We are terribly sorry about how this happened. We wish we could make it better on the claim, but we can't. But what we would like to do is make it better on the renewal. So they said, how about we subtract, this is what the market reality is. Here's your quote, your renewal quote. And it tracked with the market 15%. And so how about we pull this out to our lowest possible rate, which is only their filed rate with maximum credits. So the way the insurance companies do is every year they have to file their rates with the state, which are based on their loss costs, and they have to include only reasonable, not excessive profits. It's all checked out by the state insurance commissioners. And when those rates are approved, they have discretion where they can debit an account, which means penalize them and charge more for losses, for bad maintenance or things like that, or they can provide credits when they have a situation where they think the risk is better than the rates. So in this case, they said, we will give you our filed rates plus all the credit that we're allowed by the state. And so that's the best possible quote that they can give. And the difference there would more than make up for the costs that we're missing on the mower. So that is their proposed solution. And really, in terms of what they're able to do under their rules, that's the best they could do. So I wanted to bring that up because I know it was a point of contention, and we all really wanted to get something fixed, and I feel like that is a good resolution.
And this is Zurich, right?
Yes, that's her. So then, page 22 and 23, or 22 kind of explains that a little bit more. 23 then talks about the other carriers. So we went across the marketplace to people who are being competitive in the marketplace right now. And unfortunately, even though Zurich did as a whole increase their filed rates by 5%, everyone else did too. so that when they were coming back and looking at, hey, what can you quote for us this year? Like, for instance, Travelers looked at it last year and they said, hey, last year, we gave you all the credits we could, we were still too high, and when we're looking at what you're doing now, we're still not gonna be able to get there. So, Selective is saying, I mean, everybody we went to, Houston Casualty, Liberty, One Beacon, Selective, Travelers, Trident, they're all saying the exact same thing. Trident said slightly different. They said, in light of the loss history, we can't get there. They're the only ones that mention prior loss history, and that's why I showed you the loss history,
That's like,
because it's
yeah.
not that bad.
Look at
So
it.
I didn't really understand that, but it is a new underwriter this year, Stan Lawrence, he's out of Tennessee, and that was his answer. So it was a little weird, but, you know, that's, you know, what are you gonna do with that? So then we flip the page and we get to where we are. So like the work comp renewal with ITEP, that actually came in with a net rate decrease of 3.4%. Now what you'll see is the premium kind of goes up from 71,000 to 75,000, but that is because the exposure went up 10%. So that's a payroll increase that caused that, but the actual net rate went down. So I hope that makes sense. That's what I'm trying to display here, that even though it looks like there's a few $1,000 increase, it's really the rate went down. Does that make sense?
Sure.
People understand? Okay. The next one there is the liability, property, auto, umbrella, everything with Zurich. That was where their filed rates went up 5%. Our exposures went up as a percentage higher than that, but they didn't enforce even the exposure increases because they came back to the idea of wanting to make up for this bad experience with the claim. So again, even though we're having a little bit of an increase, it has nothing to do with your losses. It has nothing to do with Scottsburg. It is just only the fact that they have this change in the rates. But all the companies are experiencing that same thing. So what we want to do on that particular issue is go back now and review with the department heads directly all their schedule to make sure that we have everything correctly on there correctly. We don't have any duplicates, and we're not missing anything. And if we have, if there's anything on there that's a duplicate or that we don't have anymore, we can subtract, and that would lower that price. Because this is all just based on now exposure by that lowest possible rate. So for instance, like it's up from last year in terms of exposure, like we've got an increase of auto values of 8.2%. A lot of that's a brand new fire truck that raises the insured value, which raises the premium. So even though like you're not seeing a rate increase so much, you're seeing the value increase. Does all that? Same with the inland marine. There's an increase of about $500,000 in equipment. So that's up, the inland marine's up about 11.3%. So we're seeing increased exposure, but the rates are staying low. I hope that makes sense in what you're seeing. Now, here's the only bad news I have to say for this is cyber. Cyber is exceptionally difficult this year. Last year we had a rate of $10,629 for cyber. This year it is crazy. Like only 3 markets currently exist that will even do city cyber anymore. So the one thing that we just want to think about is two things to think about. One, to get quotes from every carrier, you have to have what they call full MFA. That's multi-factor authentication, which right now we don't have as a city. Costs money and time to implement. But if we start implementing that, and I can work with you guys if you decide to, we'll talk about it. Implementing that would get more quotes. But there is only one carrier that will write without full MFA. And I feel kind of silly even saying this, but their name is Cowbell. which I know sounds like, you know, that Saturday Night Live skit.
You're actually the Lloyds of London. Most of the cyber written in the world is by Lloyds of London. They have different names for their trading companies. And Cowbell, I guess, I'm not gonna pick on any particular generation, but somebody decided that would be a name recognition name in a marketplace. But it's Lloyds of London paper that's back.
Yeah, I mean, yes, so it is a good carrier. But, so I put in here approximately 16,000, which would be an increase from last year on the cyber. But the way I got that is right now the quote that they put on the table was for what they call their Prime 250 policy. That includes a full $1 million in extortion claim or ransomware, which we don't have on our expiring policy. But that is what they quoted, and that's not what we asked for. So we've gone back to them, and then they quoted that at $23,000. I'm like, wait a second, we don't have that now. We don't want that much. Come back with the $250,000 that we have. Let's do an apples to apples quote. That should lower the cost by $10,000. So that should be about $13,000, and then plus taxes and fees. Surplus lines taxes are 2.5%. So it should be under $16,000 when that comes back. But they just, they are really short-staffed. I know that nobody wants to hear that, but they are, and so they're not being able to respond as quickly as we wanted on getting that back. I mean, I kept watching my phone even when I was sitting over there. They still hadn't sent the revision yet.
Carriers like Travelers are non-renewing all of their accounts across the country, unless they have multi-factor authentication. So we're having to remove cyber coverage away from Travelers, and in some cases move the entire policies, the property and the auto, if it makes sense. But that's kind of thrown some turmoil into the marketplace. But in just a matter of maybe 7 or 8 months, you've had carriers willing to write with the security that firms had, all the way down to if you don't have MFA, we don't want you anymore. So it's really getting to a point where in the next year, you're not going to be able to get cyber unless you have MFA. And you know what MFA, if you check your 401k balance every once in a while, you'll get a security code back, right? Please type in this code to make sure. That's what that is. It's another step to keep the cyber criminals at bay.
So, yeah, so that that one is, he's saying in a matter of 6 or 7 months, they started saying that. That's true. I didn't see Travelers start coming back with we absolutely will not renew you anymore without this until July 1st. And they only gave us, at that time on those accounts, they only gave us like 2 weeks notice. And
What scares us about that is Travelers is a market leader in insurance around the country. And usually when you have a market leader that leads that way, you know, others that maybe, oh, we can look at all this business we can pick up. In the cyber world, they're all agreeing with that market leader and saying, we need to do this, me too. So, but it takes businesses some time and money to implement this. And so we've just seen, as months have gone by, fewer and fewer writers without MFA. And then inside the different classes of business, you have manufacturing, you have municipalities, you have educational. Those markets shrink depending on the cyber exposures inside of those markets. Educational municipalities have been targets of the cyber criminals.
And
Healthcare has been for a long time. But municipalities and educational have been particular targets for ransomware. But we see it across the board. I mean, we see contractors that get held ransom. We see socially engineered emails. You know, hey, I need you to send money right now, type thing, and it looks authentic. These folks are good. They're very good at their trade, and they're not only in Russia and China. and Iran, they're in the United States too. You can buy, for next to nothing, the software that you need to hack and be a cyber criminal. It is not going to go away. We actually need, I think, the federal government to step up and enact a nationwide cyber law. Do.
That would be helpful.
That would help bring more order to the marketplace.
And then I just wanted to quickly highlight some of the really good things we got this past year. And IPEP, who lowered your work comp, they did provide the city with safety grants, over $3,000 in funding for that, and this kind of outlines what it was used for. I know that was through Jan's office, and Carmen actually did the grants. So, I mean, that was actual dollars that came back to you guys, but also then helps improve safety, which lowers work comp claims, which lowers your cost. So that's why, I mean, you're seeing your decrease on that is definitely due to you guys, because carriers, you saw that all the marketplace is going for increases, and you guys are getting a decrease, and that's because of you, what you're doing. So that's fantastic.
And again, she's talking about a rate decrease. Your payroll is up year over year about 10%, but the rates charged times those payrolls are down 3.4.
Our payroll up 10%.
From where the estimate was of last year, of a year ago.
No, I think that's right.
See, I mean, we would have provided the numbers though, didn't we, to the insurance? So-
I'll show you the numbers, and if those change, so like if they're wrong, like if there was a typo, it's conceivable too that the quote came back with an error, but if those numbers have an error and it's really down, then this number goes down too.
Yeah.
So
they're
we've
not
got
gonna
time
change the
to
rates.
make sure.
They're not gonna change the rates on what they quoted.
Yeah.
You tell us the exact payrolls you need by classification, and they'll load it in, and it will
It'll
be
load it in.
what's
So, and
gonna
they
be.
looked at, what was the time frame there that they looked at that?
What they chose to use was the audited payroll from the prior year, which would have gone from 1/1/2020 to 12/31, or to 1/1/2021.
That's right.
So
So,
basically,
yeah, and that was that audited. So if it did change, or if that was higher than it is that what we expect it to be, like let's say we expect it to be lower, we can change that. They just like to use the audited. We don't have to use that. So we can lower it to whatever you
Is
want.
it based on a fiscal year or calendar year?
It's a
Based on
calendar.
calendar.
Calendar year. So
Yeah.
basically, your audit would have been for 2019 and 20, and this year it will be for 2020.
these numbers come off of 20.
Right.
Yeah, these numbers
January
come off
1.
of 20 because 2021's not finished yet. And so it will come off the most recently audited year, which ended 12/31 of 2020.
And again, that's just how it's quoted, but the net rate is down, so if your payroll is not that, I'll get with Jan, and we'll just finalize what your anticipated payroll is. If it's lower, this number goes down.
Let's talk about workman's comp just a minute.
Mhm.
One of the things that we're looking at, we're looking to also automate our trash. So if we go to get away from the 1930s model of two guys in the back of a trash truck, and we go to one guy inside of a truck picking up a mechanical arm and dumping it, how much does that lower that rate?
I can't say like an actual percentage, but what I can do is it does make a difference. So that's where IPEP will have a filed rate with the state that is approved for trash. That's the code. Then they have discretion to either make it worse or make it better, depending on the particular risk. In this case, we have better than usual risk, where we're going to be automated instead of having gentlemen or women throw the trash into the truck. So that's a better than average, so it would be a reason to go down. So I will have to go back and ask them what percentage that would change that particular payroll.
My understanding is, at least I've been told lately, that sanitation is the second highest right under police on workman's comp.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
That's one of the reasons, I mean, it's one of the reasons, but not all of the reasons I'm looking at automation,
Yep.
but, do you ever confirm that I mean, do you guys personally look at what the city has, what the people are doing, so we're making sure we're having in the right columns?
Yeah, well, we go with what's reported to us, but the people that actually make sure it's in the right column are the auditors that come once a year. And they look at everything in great detail, and yeah, they make sure that it's correct. So if something's misclassified, it's caught at that time and corrected. So if someone like who sits in an office accidentally got classified as,
That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about, exactly.
yeah, if they accidentally got classified as a trash.
Because I try to always look at those things.
Yeah.
And the good news about IPAP is they only live in the municipal market arena.
The payroll software puts each
It does?
classification with each job. So anytime someone changes a job, that's taken care of immediately. It gives all of our audit records to the auditor.
Okay.
So that's
what I
pretty
need.
cool. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
No,
that's
I
what I
just
need.
thought
Yeah,
it was helpful.
yes.
But instead of having an auditor who will do a manufacturing business one day and will do a contractor the next,
Right.
the IPAP auditor lives in the space and knows what to look for.
Well, and like for safety, I mean, we have a safety officer that goes around and makes sure that all our folks out on the streets or wherever they're at are wearing the necessary safety protection as well.
Right.
So we are very cognizant of that as well. One of the things I would like to see from your company as well is I would like to see a personal, and we're going through auditing these things personally.
Yeah.
That you guys come to make sure that what equipment did we get rid of, what equipment did we add? I don't want to see another thing like what we have
Absolutely.
with our
I agree. And that is a plan for on the next page. Before I flip to that page, 100% you've got my commitment on that, and we'll get started immediately. The other thing too about the automation, like what would that save you? Yes, a percentage on a rate is one thing, but the overall big saving is actually comes from prevention of loss, which is harder to see. But if you have just one guy get hurt and it hurts their back, that's a $100,000 claim, and that affects you for 3 years down the road. So it's the prevention is harder to see, but it makes a huge difference. And so even if the automation doesn't save like a dollar for dollar thing up front, over time it definitely does.
It will, because we have one guy, you know, with a joystick, and he's picking up in 7.2 seconds, dumping one, go to that, I can do 7 to 9 houses in a day,
Yeah,
and without any liability for anybody there.
exactly. Yeah, it makes total sense. So then the final page is what you're asking for, which is our commitment to work with Melina
Okay.
and then directly,
And it
like,
would be Marita, because Melina was just an interim.
oh, I'm sorry.
Marita will be taking care of insurance.
That's my fault, I will fix that. So I will work with her, I'll work with Marita, and then directly with the individual department heads to make sure that we have everything accounted for and valued correctly. And again, if the values go down, like let's say there's anything on here that shouldn't be on here, then the premium goes down. So all that will be adjusted accordingly, and we'll get started on that, you know, right away as soon as it works for department heads. But yeah, I'll be here in person to do that.
Okay.
And then the other commitment would be to refine the certificate of insurance requirements for vendors and facility rentals. And this is something actually we're just talking about over here because, you know, we're seeing a lot of questions about that. People getting pushed back when they want to use your facilities and about what insurance they should have. And so we want to sit down and go through with what exactly is needed and what it should be and what we have, all that stuff, and get that straightened out.
And right now, we ask for the certificate of insurance,
Yeah,
which was what you encouraged us to do.
absolutely. And I think that's completely right. She's getting some pushback on like the amounts that we're requiring.
Almost $1 million.
Let me see
Yeah, because
this.
it's $1 million is what we,
So we might, you know, go through that a little bit.
This is specifically more having to do with Mid-America Science Park.
Yeah,
We have long-term rentals, short-term rentals, weekly daily rentals. So, or event rentals. An event, you know, might be a wedding or something of that nature. And somebody, we just had a company wanting to come in and and had a Christmas party one night for the folks. So I guess we're looking for some type of insurance that is gonna be this much money just to cover these folks for this day. And we would add that into the rental.
Gotcha, yeah, so you want like a set price for, okay,
That's what I'm looking for.
that's good, yeah, we can do that.
So, now, the long-term rentals, they're gonna be there, they're gonna sign a year lease, they will give us a certificate of insurance. And they're aware of that. But just have a day rental, or we're gonna be here 2 or 3 days, just short-term rentals like that.
Right now, we don't get certificates of insurance for short terms.
Because it should be, yeah.
Just
Covered
like
under
Center,
their-
multi-dollar places that, you know, we haven't been.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, we can get that to add to the rental price. I mean, I'll get the pricing and we can show you what that
See what
is.
that would be,
Yeah.
that'd be great, that'd be great. So,
And then finally, the last thing real quick, I
do
wanted
you
to,
have any other questions where this is concerned?
No, we talked.
Okay, good.
We're gonna
Okay, good.
figure it out.
and we do also have a new claims representative. So when we do have public claims in the future, her name's Christine Bullock and her nickname is Bulldog for good reason. Like she's tough in a very good way as a proponent for our clients. And then also we have a new loss control representative, Nino, and that has some online services that you guys might like, online loss prevention, training videos you can download, training posters, safety materials that might be of use. And if you look at them and say, I don't need this, that's cool too. But at least they're available for us.
We, like you, don't want losses.
Right, right.
What we can utilize Nino for though is having him look at what the insurance carriers are doing for you in terms of safety. Because the carriers come out and they inspect and they go, okay, you're doing this, you're wearing the belts, you know, et cetera, and then they will write a report. Sometimes they'll have recommendations for improvement, sometimes not. Nino can take a look at what they're doing and what you're doing and say, wait a minute, that carrier needs to also be doing this, this, and this on your behalf. Kind of an ombuds person. And he's doing that for us on a lot of our accounts that we write. And I think he's there as a resource, might as well utilize it.
Right.
Doesn't cost you anything more.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so what else do you have for us this evening?
That's all.
Okay. I appreciate just the lower amount rate increase, that helps me.
Yeah, that does help a lot. I know that was a very frustrating claim, and, you know, I wish that we could have.
It was one of those things should never happen. You know, the state wasn't mowing it, we opted to mow that whole interchange, because I want Scottsville looks, smell, and taste clean. So I want it mowed down, I don't want grass up to your knees or higher. And so, we just went out a little bit too early. We went up, it's a very steep incline, and hit rubber tracks and began to slide. Normally just slid down, no big deal. But there was a small tree that had been cut down, and had just enough sticking up. It hit the track, and when it hit the track, it flipped it over. When it flipped it over, it went into a creek.
Just like everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Everything that goes on.
Yeah. And when
And
you're
I
trying
don't
to
like
do
to
a
turn
good
claims
thing.
in like that.
Yeah.
I don't like to turn claims in.
Well, we don't like for it to happen.
I will like
We
it.
feel like we have as good a system in place for that, and for that one, that went through several hands
Yeah.
for it to have still been missed.
Yeah, I was
But we
gonna say,
worked really hard. I mean, Jan's office, I mean, we sat down with them for hours and hours and we went through all the lists. And I mean, I know that all due diligence was done, it somehow was still missed.
These were hot days, we're getting out there a little too early, but it was still due, and that's what it was.
Yeah,
It was on a rubber track.
yeah.
as far as keeping track of what they buy and they sell, I'm not sure what you have in place right now, but we could help you provide a list of what we have.
We
And
would
have
want
them
that.
maybe look at that maybe 3 times a year. I think quarterly is like, that's another
Well, I
report.
know, but I think we're doing it quarterly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do it, and we put Post-its on it, and 4 people look at the claims, and it
And we
went
have
through,
special
the department head signed off on their fixed assets twice, not once, but
And
twice.
that had
Well,
something
So-
we send monthly changes to insurance.
Uh-huh.
We send monthly changes to insurance. We update our database quarterly, but
quarterly,
This
this
is-
is monthly changes, yeah,
That
so
makes you see it
it
twice.
was one of those things that there's enough blame to go around, so.
So,
You're not alone. We have this, occasionally have this happen in our shop too, so you're not alone.
I don't want those things. So I want,
I'll be out here in person with those department heads directly.
But we did beat Zurich
just
up
take what
pretty
your
hard.
list is and compare it to our list.
Yeah.
And that's what, I always like to do that every year. So, thank you.
We did beat them up pretty hard. There were numerous phone calls. I was in a couple of them going, you have to find something here. You have to find something somewhere. And these claims departments don't have slush funds. They have to tie the payment to an actual coverage. And we didn't have it.
We're gonna run out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
We need to take a vote if you're gonna go with this proposal. Because this is the renewal.
Scott.
Definite though, you gotta review things and change the numbers.
I think this expires December 31st. So
So how do we do it?
I think at this point.
Change the numbers on
No, I mean, I think the numbers would change after, if differences are found, then they will change the numbers as we move forward.
so that would be in.
We can get on that, payroll in the next couple of days.
Right.
To see, you know, that's the biggie right there.
The rates won't change, now the exposure basis.
So basically, we approve the rate.
So let's have a motion to accept the property casualty renewal, as proposed here this evening.
I'll make that
Tom Lewis makes the motion, is there a second? Karen Grisham seconds. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Good. Thank you, folks,
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Next thing is Sellback event use days.
Yes, I will pass out, as we know, for the new handbook, sellback of vacation days could not be done until December this year. These, I'm sorry, I didn't put a total down as to the amount of sellbacks. If you want to look on those, I'll pass these around for everyone to sign off on the vouchers. So I have your approval, just sign on these anywhere. But those, I'm requesting the sellbacks for those individuals. And as you've seen, as we've had much discussion, the police, are usually the ones that utilize us the most. And I know their numbers are down, I'm thinking about $6,000 this year on their sellbacks. They're all tired and they wanted to take their vacation. But I would ask for a motion to, I need to sign, get you to sign it tomorrow. But if these two will sign, there's 4 papers there. If you just put your name somewhere on top, that'd be great. Anywhere. If there's any place down at the bottom, it's great.
We don't have a lot of sellbacks.
And we will process those tomorrow, so they will be on Thursday's pay.
Is there a motion to go forward them with sellback on use days?
I'll make that motion.
Tom Lewis makes the motion, is there a second?
Karen, second.
Karen seconds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, okay.
Can I go ahead and ask for a motion for the claims, since it's the last
Yes,
thing,
please.
while I've got the floor?
I'll make
Yes.
that motion.
Okay, as presented,
Tom Lewis makes the motion.
okay?
Accept the claims as presented, Karen Grisham seconds, all in favor say aye. Aye. Go through those as well. Okay, thank you, Jan. Personal items, Jessica Jones, what do you have for us?
Okay, I have a lengthy list, so I'll try and make this quick. The first item is, we would like permission to hire 4 part-time firefighters effective tomorrow's date. Those 4 firefighters, part-time firefighters would be John Hartman, Michael Jones, Samuel Williams, and Lucas Williams.
This is just a part-time positions here. Do we have a motion to accept these as presented?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Tom Lewis makes the motion, is there a second? Karen Grisham
What were the
seconds.
2 Williams names?
Samuel and Lucas, I have a list for you as
You
well.
can give me this list of everything you're presenting,
All in favor,
thank you.
Say aye.
All right.
Aye. Unanimous, thank you. Next.
The second thing I have is the Assistant Parks Director position. We would like permission to transfer Matt McNear from the Street Department to the Assistant Parks Director position effective 1/3 of 2022 with a $50 a month cell phone stipend.
I'll make that motion.
Tom Lewis makes a motion, is there a second? Karen Bush is second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous, thank you.
Okay, the next item I have is to promote Zach Bain from Broadband Installer B to Installer A effective 12/12/2021, which is yesterday's date for the beginning of this payroll period.
So move.
Tom Lewis makes a motion.
I'll second.
Karen Bush is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you.
The next item that I have is we have a part-time employee in the street and sanitation department who is currently averaging 30 hours a week. And after looking at our handbook on page 7 and speaking with the department head and the mayor, we would like permission to move this employee from part-time status to full-time Affordable Care Act employee. What this does is the employee, because they are averaging over the 28 and they are at 30.5 hours, by federal law, we have to offer them health insurance, but by moving them to a full-time Affordable Care Act employee, they don't get any retirement benefits or anything of that nature. We did look at the possibility of hiring a second part-time person, and the cost of doing that would be more expensive than if this person was to take our most expensive health insurance plan over the course of the year. So we would like to move them to that full-time Affordable Care Act employee per our handbook.
Got all that written out.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Tom Lewis makes a motion. Karen Bush is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And that's just basically, he's averaging just about a couple hours more than what he's allowed.
And I assume Affordable Care Act employees paid more from their own.
I'm assuming
Is
yes.
that what that
Pardon?
means?
You're assuming what because I'm not
When
sure.
you say Affordable Care Act employee, that means he's paid for from a particular fund? Or
No.
what's that?
So by federal
Which means
law,
we're going to do an additional because we don't have this money in their budget.
well,
So,
they would stay at the same pay rate, they would stay at everything. The difference is that part-time employee doesn't have more than 28 hours, and we have to offer them workers' comp and social security benefits. A full-time Affordable Care Act employee, they are regularly scheduled for 30 hours or more per week. We offer them health insurance and then the workers' comp and social security benefits. So this person could say that they're not going to take our health insurance and it's no difference than what we have right now, which is what it may be, or they could take our health insurance. If they did, the maximum cost would be $9,000 in a year if they took the most expensive health insurance plan, the PPO that we had.
Well, my question was, what does Affordable Care Act
It
employee mean?
just means that they get the addition of the health insurance.
Why is it, that's all?
no other benefits.
Yeah, no other benefits, just the health insurance. I passed out to you guys a list with some attachments on job descriptions. So we have 7 job descriptions listed that we would like to change the title only just to match what's going to be in the salary ordinance. The first 6 of those just drop Citizen Internet from the title, but leaves the job description itself identical. The last one is dropping the word bookkeeper out of the title for utility claims clerk. However, it does keep that the same. So we would like to ask for permission to make those changes to those job descriptions on the title only for that list.
I want the motion.
A question that I have
Mhm.
first of all, did you draft these job descriptions or were they done by Irwin Shealy?
The job descriptions that are listed there are the current job descriptions that are already approved. It's just changing the title. We are still waiting on Irwin Shealy to get back with us in regards to, they have been sent all of these job descriptions as
Sent all
well.
these, okay.
Yes.
Do you have any idea when they're going to be done with our job descriptions?
I have not heard, but I have put a thing out for
We would like
follow-up,
to know
but
if
yes.
that's anything we would be able to pay this year or if we have to encumber it into next year.
I will follow up with Lori on that, but we are still working with her, and these, like I said, all of these have been sent. These that we're asking for the title change, there's nothing that has been changed from the current approved job descriptions that are already on file. We're just asking to change the name of those on those.
Okay, have you gotten to the municipal project manager yet?
No, that's not on,
Okay.
that's coming up.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't see the list that you.
Yeah, and I've got, it's all on there for you.
But I didn't have.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Motion
so,
to change these titles as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Garrett,
I'll
second.
second.
Motion, Tom seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. What else, Jess?
okay, the next one is we have 3 job descriptions that we would like to make updates to only. And those are in the packet that I had given you. Those are the Director of Operations, the IT Administrator, and the IT Assistant. The main change in these is who they report to, who they report to under reporting responsibilities is the only change on those.
Okay, the question I would have, just because I'm familiar with what's being proposed on the salary ordinance, I do see that the one position, the municipal project manager.
That one's gonna, I'm not to,
You're not to that one?
No,
Okay,
no,
well,
I'm
see,
not to that one yet.
Okay. that's
Yeah,
what
no,
my
I've only got
question
these
is.
3, the Director of Operations, the IT Administrator, and the IT Assistant, only because they have updates to the current job description, and that update is basically saying, we're changing who their reporting responsibility is to, is what it is, and that's found in your packet.
I'll make a motion. to Make those changes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yes, okay. Anything else, Jess?
Okay, so I have 6 job descriptions that we would like to get approved. They're new job descriptions contingent upon council's approval of the salary ordinance, of the 2020 salary ordinance amendment that's on tonight's agenda. So these would be approved contingent upon council's approval. The first one is Director of Technology and Communications. The second one is Municipal Project Manager. The next 4 are Electric, Vegetation Management, Fiber Laborer positions, and those are A, B, C, and D based on their qualifications. And those are the ones that we would like to ask for approval for those new job descriptions contingent upon council approval of the 2022 salary ordinance amendments tonight.
I will make that motion.
And the question that I have there that I've been trying to get was when there had been discussion on these proposals for the salary ordinance, that Director of Operations was just having a name change, that there would be no Director of Operations.
Well,
So
it's
now
not a position that's necessarily going to be filled, but since it's already on there, that the change on it was dropping the citizens internet off of the front of it and then changing who it reports to is the only
Yes, but in
difference.
this job description, it has reporting to the Director of Operations. And it was in what I was sent out in my packet on Friday, it was my understanding that that job title was changing completely and that there would not be a Director of Operations.
Okay, I'm going off of what I was presented with the Director of Operations. The Municipal Project Manager, is that the one you're saying that it says reports to
Yes.
the Director?
Now,
Okay.
the very first line that I'm seeing there says liaison between electric superintendent and Director of Operations for projects involving one or both departments. Now, again, this is what I was sent in my packet on Friday.
Right, and under the reporting responsibility, it says that the incumbent will report directly to the director and works closely on projects with the electric superintendent and other projects from the mayor's office. So it just says director. We can with the approval, make that Director of Technology
In
and
2 places
Operations.
there, it references in the primary job functions as being answering to the Director of Operations.
And
who
like I
didn't think
said,
we were gonna have one.
that I can get changed to the Director of Technology if they want to approve that contingent upon that change being made to this. That is, I apologize, I did not catch that, but I can make that change in there. Change the wording, we can change the wording to Director of Technology and Communications instead of Director of Operations.
Depends, I guess, on what council
Okay, I guess
does.
that's fine with me.
Is this a job with Frank Stacy in?
No, this is the one that will be posting that Kevin.
He wouldn't be the director.
No, it's saying reporting to. What she's saying is
My
the
point
first
is
line.
to report to a Director of Operations, and I thought that was the title we were doing away with, because Stacy was going to just be changing her job title to Director of Technology, that we would no longer be having a Director of Operations. which is what Stacy is now.
So,
We can, if the Board of Works wants to approve it, they can approve that with, by saying that we have to make that change before it would be
I want to
approved.
be the director, I don't know what this, I did not catch the verbiage of operations to what?
Technology.
Technology and communications.
I thought her job title was changing, I thought that was our discussion in that meeting, that she no longer was going to be the Director of Operations, that her position would be called the Director of Technology. And it has this position reporting to the Director of Operations, which of my understanding, there was not going to be one of those because we were
Under the
title.
reporting responsibility in the job description, it says the incumbent reports directly to director and works closely on projects with the electric superintendent and other city projects and from the mayor's office. So,
But if we have two directors, a Director of Operations, a Director of Technology, which one? I mean,
Well, the motion is gonna be, we approve it pending she changed that to Director of Technology.
I can clarify that in here to director of technology.
And then the Director of Operations is meaningless because there's nobody in it.
there's not supposed to be, from what I was of the understanding.
Is that solid?
Yep, if that's what you
I'll
want
make
your
the
motion to be.
Based on that change in the
No,
wording.
second.
Motion's been made by Tom Lewis and seconded by Karen Gricius. All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay. What else, Jess?
The last thing that I have is we would like to get approval to pay Mark's Feed Store outside of a regular meeting for the Christmas lunch, Christmas employees lunch. They're requesting that we pay by check, and since it will be before our next meeting, we would like to get approval to pay that outside of a Board of Works meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The last thing that I have is the sewer adjustments that are up there. Leslie would ask for approval of those.
We're going through those. Do we need a motion for that?
We never have in the past.
I was gonna say, there's just two of them.
So, I have mass waivers. Does that need to be brought up?
Yes,
Okay.
I only have 3,
Okay.
and they're in your packet.
These are all for kids.
And they've all been pre-approved.
Pre-approved,
I'll
okay?
make a motion. We
I
approve
just
those.
had 2 copies, I think, Macy. Did I miss one of them? I've got,
No, I knew.
okay.
So,
I'll make a motion, we approve all 3.
Tom Lewis makes a motion. Is there a second? Karen Gricius seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear, because I
And-
was-
Chief Zellers release of federal asset.
I got a 20-minute presentation.
No.
You guys are on overtime right now. Quickly, I'm asking, I have to ask the Board of Works for permission to use my federal asset forfeiture money. It's not budget money. We've done this normally by vehicles. I want to purchase 6 800 megahertz radios we have 6 cars that do not have that radio in there. We operate on a low band system. The sheriff operates off the 800 system, and we can't communicate with the sheriff from 6 cars can't right now. So I got 3 bids. I don't think I have to get bids, but I got 3 bids. One's from Motorola, one's from ECS, and one's from Baltus Electric. Baltus is the cheapest by far. This is for the radio, the antenna, the wiring, get them installed. And this may not be exact because we're still shopping to find out who's going to put them in. Motorola for the 6 radios was $16,515 and some odd change, 48 cents. ECS is $14,451.30, and Baltus is $13,130.60. So I'm asking the board's approval to purchase 6 of these Kenwood Viking dash mounted mobile radios, and all the equipment I need to get them installed, and to get them installed. And once again, the $13,131.60 is the lowest bid I have right now, and it may be cheaper than that if we get somebody else to put radios in. But I have to get this approved to you guys, and we need to act on it because I need to get the radios for this year.
We have 2 radio systems. One's a low band, one is an 800 system. So basically, most of our counties working on 800, the state police, a lot of these other cities around has an 800 system, we're not able to communicate, so both radios will be on.
Yeah.
So we've already got
It's
this.
an officer safety issue.
That's paid from this federal asset.
I'm sorry. That's federal asset forfeiture money. It's not budgeted. It comes from when we had somebody signed to a federal task force. It's just money we got from drug dealers and cars that we repoed and all that fun stuff.
I'll make a motion.
Tom Lewis makes a motion, is there a second? Karen Brisher seconds, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that
Karen makes a motion to adjourn. We are adjourning, folks.